heart of an impenetrable night, where ancient forests roar and rivers run red with blood, Xích Quỷ emerges as a thousand-year enigma of the Vietnamese people. Under a blazing blood-red moon, the heavy toll of bronze drums echoes, weaving a saga of a primal kingdom where blood and divinity intertwine. King Dejang Vbong, born of Jian Min, and the ethereal Vien tomb, founded Xích Quỷ realm both sacred and terrifying, where humans and spectral shadows walk as one. From blood-soaked rituals and an immortal army, shrouded in mist, to a curse whispering from the earth's depths, this tale pulls you into a mystical journey where history and legend collide. Xích Quỷ is more than a kingdom. It's an undying flame coursing through the veins of a nation, a triumphant anthem heralding the Vietnamese spirit, waiting to be reawakened under the crimson moon. Step into the myth, where secrets of 1,000 years burn bright. Legend calls its name Midnight. The vast ancient forest sank into the howling wind. On the surface of the river, black as an endless abyss, the round moon suddenly twisted, morphing into a long smear of crimson, eerie and blood-red, casting its reflection upon the water. From afar, the sound of bronze drums echoed, their heavy, somber rhythm beating like the heart of Mother Earth itself, thudding slowly in the eternal darkness. Through the thick shroud of fog, a hoarse voice suddenly rose, as though carried up from the depths of the earth. Before the land was ever called Vietnam, before Vane Lang, before Uelskis, there existed a nation whose very name stirred both reverence and dread. Xích Quỷ. The river's waters abruptly spiraled, rings of deep red spreading outward, as if an unseen body had just been submerged. White mist surged forth from the forest, blanketing the river in a spectral curtain. Through the haze, figures flickered into view, bare-chested, gripping spears and halberds, their eyes blazing like fire. They uttered no words, only low guttural cries, a broken, primal tongue echoing from an age long lost, incomprehensible to those of today. But the wind hissed through the ancient canopy, carrying with it a pungent tang, metallic and raw, like blood yet to dry. Above, the mottled red moon cast its pallor, transforming the forest into a tableau of death. Once more, the voice in the shadows spoke, each syllable etched slowly into the void. XYZ means the color of blood, the crimson streak of sacrificial rites, where human lives were offered up to the gods. Ku no mere demon, but a power beyond human comprehension, the fierce spirit guarding the southern realms. When joined together, these words became the emblem of the first nation of the Viet people, Xích Quỷ, a blazing red star, brightest among the 28 constellations upon the sky. At that moment, a bronze drone thundered suddenly, not rapid, not frenzied, but slow and ponderous, like the heartbeat of Mother Earth. With each resonant strike, the fog churned more violently, and the phantom warriors swayed, as if their souls were bound within the ancient bronze itself. The hoarse voice whispered on, like a curse lingering from the past. The chronicles record that in the year 2879 BC, King Dejang Vbong, the son of Emperor Jian Min and Lady Vientiane, founded this nation. But is it truth, or only legend, a sacred admonition so descendants would remember their roots? Historians left but a handful of sparse lines, yet among the people, the tale endures, of a blood-stained realm haunted by spirits, where mortals and deities once dwelled side by side. Suddenly, silence fell. Only the wind howled. Only the drumbeats pounded into the soul. Then, from the depths of the forest, a long, chilling wail rang out like a soul's summoning from 1,000 years past. It swept across the mountains, trembling over the blood-red river. And that voice, for the last time, rose like a proclamation. Tonight, I shall open the forbidden gate. Step into the 1,000-year legend, where Xích Quỷ is not merely a nation, but an immortal specter, clinging to the very flesh and blood of this people, The moon burned crimson. The bronze drums resounded endlessly. The fog swirled and swallowed everything. And in that instant, history and legend fused as one, opening a gate that led humankind into the shattered mythos of its own origin. The origin of Xích Quỷ, the vast canvas of the pitch-black night. A blood-red inscription suddenly appeared, each stroke seeping into stone as if alive. 2879 BC, King Qin Di founded the nation. The sound of bronze drums thundered, stretching long and heavy like a rumble of earth-bound thunder. Their echoes spread across mountains and forests, making roots tremble, river surfaces quiver. In the heavy silence that followed, a tale of origin was unveiled, not merely through annals, but through blood and spirit. It was said that at the dawn of that era, a sovereign from the north descended toward the south. He was Jing Min, the third-generation grandson of Shino, the divine farmer. Draped in animal furs, he carried in his hand a jade gem burning like condensed fire torn from the heavens, his radiant gaze piercing through mountain and forest alike. With every step he took, the bronze drums resounded in slow rhythm, mingling with the howls of the wind and the echoes of land and water, affirming the presence of a deity in human form. Jing Min was not merely a monarch. He bore within himself the blood of heaven and earth, and could sense the breath of nature. They said when he passed through forests, beasts knelt before him. When he stepped into valleys, streams ceased their flow, while grass and trees quivered as though bowing to their true master. One full moon night, as the silver orb hung suspended in the sky, its color shifted from ivory white into a deep crimson. The entire forest fell into absolute silence. Birds did not sing, insects made no sound, even the wind choked within mountain gorges. Only the blood-red glow of the moon spilled across rivers and streams. That very night, she and Min encountered Lady Vian Torn. She appeared beside a crimson riverbank, her long black hair cascading like silk, her eyes gentle as the crescent moonlight. Her figure was supple as mist, yet an aura of mystery emanated around her, half like a sheltering veil, half like a prison of fate. They said Vian Chung was a celestial maiden, guardian of deep forests, a pure soul amidst the underworld's gloom. Their meeting was no accident. It was a rendezvous of destiny. When their eyes met, river waves froze, mountains held their breath, the heavens themselves stood still to witness a new beginning. From that union, a child was born, a child carrying both the divine and the human essence. That child was none other than King Dijang Vibong. From Earth, he was unlike any other. He whispered he could hear the winds murmur, understand the language of streams, and perceive the wandering spirits hidden in forests. When his tender hands touched the soil, grasses grew lush and green. Yet at times, with but a glance, blades of grass turned into ash. Villagers whispered of him as the bearer of the two faces of creation, bestower of blessings, bringer of ruin. Raised in mountains and forests, King Dijang Vibong learned to harmonize with nature. He could foresee storms rising from the sea, floods surging from mountains. At times, when he raised his sword, the sky split apart, clouds scattered, winds dissolved. At times, when he planted the jade into a river, its rising waters ceased, flowing gently like silk ribbons. People believed he was the bridge between the human realm and the divine, a soul being, capable of tempering the fierce powers of the south. Upon coming of age, King Dijang Vibong ascended as sovereign. He ruled not only humankind, but compelled even deities to bow. And he was the one who bestowed a name upon the land, Xích Quỷ. That name was not merely a designation. It was a reminder, a curse passed down through generations. Xích, red like blood, the blood of ancestors, of sacred sacrifices. Quỷ, ferocious spirits, forces beyond human comprehension, guardians of the southern skies. When joined, they became the emblem of the first nation of the Vietnamese people, a land born of flesh and blood, of divine might, of the union immortal and sacred. Some say he sought to remind descendants that this land was forged in blood, and to betray it meant turning into a tormented ghost, damned through eternity. Others believe the name etched into memory that this nation was birthed in both savagery and sanctity, forever inseparable. And yet, a question still haunts posterity. Was Xích Quỷ truly only a kingdom? Or was it also a phantom warding over the people, from their mirth until eternity? For since its emergence, blood has never ceased to flow. Spirits fallen in wars, sacrifices staining the soil crimson, all seem to extend the primal curse. Through 4 millennia of history, that phantom clings still, woven into every drop of blood, every breath of this nation. The forest night returned to silence. The bronze drumbeats faded, then vanished. Yet deep within the mountains, whispers of the wind and murmurs of rivers could still be heard, as if recounting a tale from millennia past. The tale of a bloody, enchanted beginning, the origin of Xích Quỷ, the phantom in the bloodline. That night had never truly ended. The storyteller whispered, as though we ourselves were standing at the heart of a 1,000-year fog dot in the sky. The crimson noon shattered, dripping blood drop by drop, spreading across the surface of the blackened river. Winds howled from all directions, carrying with them a storm of sound, the clash of weapons, the neighing of horses, the screams of men mingling with the distant echoes of bronze drums. No one knew whether it was illusion or reality, only that the mountains and forests were awakening with the souls of the dead. From the pale white smoke, ghostly figures appeared once more. This time, it was not a handful of lone warriors, but an entire army. They marched in columns, their steps heavy and synchronized, as if still marching beneath the banner of King Dijon. Upon their shoulders, bronze shields bore stains of dried blood. Their spears glimmered faintly, recalling an age when war and sacrifice were inseparable. Xích Quỷ has never vanished. It is not found in written histories. No dynasties followed its name. And yet, it has never left the nation's bloodline. Every child of Viet carries within a fragment of that phantom, a fragment fierce, bloodthirsty, both terrifying and sacred. As the voice rose, the army halted. They turned their heads, and thousands of eyes, glowing like embers, fixed upon the listener. No word escaped their lips, only that gaze, piercing into the soul, as though one's true name, the secret name hidden in the bloodline since the beginning, had just been called aloud. A boy from the village believed to bear a bond with the ancestors collapsed to his knees. Trembling, he stammered, "I can hear them. They are calling me by the name my parents never dared to utter." The eldest of the village swiftly drew a talisman from his robe, set it aflame. Smoke billowed, merging with the fog, yet it failed to dispel the phantom army. On the contrary, the bronze drums beat louder and faster, urging the spirits closer. Red blood sick, phantom soul coup. Did you believe you had escaped the oath? Your ancestors once sacrificed themselves to found the first kingdom, and now the descendants would forget. No, the phantom of Xích Quỷ remains, following every step, every breath. A violent gust swept through, tearing roofs of straw, shaking the village to its core. The boy kneeling on the ground suddenly raised his head, his eyes blazing red like fire. It was no longer his own voice, but the voices of hundreds in unison. We have never died. We are the blood, the bone, the immortal soul of Xích Quỷ. Panic seized the villagers. Some fled, some fell prostrate, some buried their faces to the ground, unable to look up. Yet the more they trembled, the clearer they saw. The phantoms advancing from the fog, their footsteps pounding, their drumbeats merging with the beating of their own hearts. The night seemed endless. No one knew how many watches had passed, only that when the jungle roosters crowed at dawn, the army slowly dissolved, But before vanishing, they all raised their arms, pointing at the boy as though marking him as chosen. Then they melted into the white mist, leaving no trace. Only the boy remained, his eyes black once more, but the hoarse voices of 1,000 years still echoed within his mind. Remember, Xích has never abandoned you. It sleeps within the blood, waiting to awaken. From that night onward, no villager dared speak of the red moon again. Yet the children born afterward, on nights of a blood moon, sometimes jolted awake in their sleep, murmuring in ancient tones no one could understand. The elders could only shiver and whisper, "It is the call of Xích." And so the legend, passed from generation to generation, never truly ended. It crept into lullabies, into stories told by firelight, even into the hazy dreams of those who had never known the fateful night of the crimson moon. Not the phantom of Xích, whether a nation or a myth, has become part of the bloodline, an indelible memory etched into the soul. The song of heaven and earth. After the night of the red moon, the mist gradually dissolved. The forests and mountains returned to their silence. Yet within the hearts of the people, the fierce echoes had not faded. Everyone knew that the shadow of Xích was not meant merely to instill fear. It was a reminder. The sacred origin had never perished. Xích, it is not only blood and ghostly shadows. It is the opening song of the nation's eternal epic. Before the descendants knew of Van Lang, of Halseas, before the radiant dynasties rose and fell, there was already a brilliant dawn carved upon this land. In the imagination, the mountains and forests lit up. People saw fertile fields stretching far, where the very first grains of rice were sown by the hands of the ancestors. The rivers and mountains were no longer shrouded in darkness, but filled with radiance, with flocks of Ulsa birds flying against the wind, their wings like divine brushstrokes across the azure sky. King Dejang, Vibong appeared in the mind's eye, not as a distant god, but as the father of the people. Beside him was Lady Vientiane, her gentle gaze soft as the morning mist, breathing life into the rivers and mountains. From their union, not only a dynasty, but an identity was born, the very soul of Xích. The warriors who once emerged from the fog were no longer called phantoms. They now stood tall, spears and swords gleaming beneath the sunlight. They were the embodiment of strength, of the yearning to protect their land and sky. The bronze drums no longer beat with a mournful dirge, but resounded with a heroic rhythm, urging the marching army onward. Do not see Xích only through the veil of mystery. See it as the opening song, where mortals and deities walked side by side. In the blood of every child of this land, there is not only the ferocity of survival, but also the light of defiance, the belief that this nation was born to endure the storms. An elder of the village nodded, his trembling voice filled with pride. Our ancestors did not leave us grand palaces, nor did they inscribe many words, but they left us legends. And those legends are invisible castles, stronger than stone and jade, living forever in the hearts of their descendants. The young no longer felt fear. They gazed up at the radiant sky, imagining the red star of Xích still shimmering among the constellations. They knew that their ancestors had never vanished. The forebears walked with them still, in every drop of sweat, every heartbeat, every grain of rice, every oar rowing against the current of the river. And so the tale spread, not just in one village, but across distant lands. People spoke of Xích. Some said it was the first kingdom. Others believed it was the realm where deities bestowed strength. But all agreed that name was the foundation, the starting point from which this nation could hold its head high through 1,000 storms. Night of the Red Moon became but a memory. Yet whenever someone sang a folk song, tapped lightly upon the bronze drum, or shouted across the golden fields of rice, one could feel an unseen force uplifting them. That force was none other than Xích, the legendary land, at once distant and close. terrifying yet sacred. And thus, from the mythical capital to the mountains and rivers, from the dreams of children to the stories of the elderly, Xích lived on, no longer as a ghostly summons, but as a magnificent anthem, the opening movement of the nation's heroic epic. Remember this, descendants, for all eternity. Xích is not a legend to tremble before. It is the source of pride. It is the flame that lights the path. And every step upon this motherland is an oath to continue the song of the ancestors. Dawn broke. Sunlight poured down through the canopy of leaves, cloaking the mountains and rivers in golden radiance. Birds sang in chorus, sweeping away the remnants of gloom. And within the whispering wind, one could almost hear a voice. Xích, immortal, eternal, the immortal epic on the strip of land lying between the deep blue eastern sea and the mist-shrouded mountains, where rivers surge endlessly toward the ocean. There lies an origin none can forget. It is Xích, a name carved into the soul, both scar and guiding flame. Long ago, our ancestors chose blood to raise a nation. Red blood is the foundation, white bones as the pillars. They needed no golden palaces, no stone tablets engraved with names. All they needed was one vow. For as long as descendants still hold a drop of blood, still draw a single breath, they shall never forget Xích. As the voice spread, the mountains echoed back. On the jagged peaks, the clouds parted, revealing a sky of crystalline blue. Among the countless stars, one red star shone brighter than the rest, as if to affirm that the ancient oath had never been lost. The warriors appeared for the final time, but no longer cloaked in gloomy mist. They walked within the radiance of dawn, ranks unbroken, bronze armor gleaming. Each step struck the earth with thunder, shaking heaven and stirring human hearts. They were no longer phantoms, but living emblems of defiance. Each face was a verse of epic history, each gaze a spark of immortality. Look well, descendants of Xích. The red blood still flows within your hearts. It burns in every grain of rice, every evening smoke rising from the hearth, in the lullabies of mothers, in the shouts of fishermen hauling their nets. It is not only blood for war, but blood that sustains harvests, builds homes, lights the future. A boy lifted his face to the sky, his eyes shining, no longer trembling as he had on the night of the red moon. He now held pride and longing in his gaze. Softly he spoke. Xích is not to be feared, but to be lived with. The words caught like flame. Elders nodded, youth smiled, children ran joyfully across the fields. Each heart felt a quiet fire burning within, the very flame left by the ancestors. The bronze drums thundered once more, but now they heralded not bloodshed, nor the arrival of shadows. They resounded like the hymn of creation, a proud rhythm guiding the nation's steps into the eternal chronicle of history. The drums blended with the cries of the low seas burns overhead, with waves crashing upon distant shores, with wind whispering through ancient forests. Together they formed a majestic symphony. O children of eternity, remember, Xích is not only the beginning, but the everlasting banner. It reminds you that you were born of blood and fire, of waters and mountains, of longing and sacrifice. It is the red thread binding past, present, and future. Wherever you go, whatever you do, remember, within your heart always shines a red star, the star of Xích. The heavens blazed with brilliance. Sunlight poured over mountains and rivers. The red river surged with endless waves, like the ceaseless flow of blood. Mountain ranges bent and coiled, like the spine of a colossal dragon. The eastern seas stretched boundless, humming an eternal song. All elements united into a resounding epic, the opening chord of 10,000 years of history. And ever since, within every page of chronicles, within every song, within every upward glance, one may still hear the whisper of the ancestors. Xích, immortal, eternal, The opening song shall forever resound.